Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there and to all of the non-fathers who have taken on the role of father. That includes mothers who have to do both jobs and uncles who had to step in when there was no one else, and friends who had to do the job when no one else would. We appreciate all of you out there right now. If you're a great father, if you're a terrible father, I have some movies for you to watch. Uh, but for everyone else, and all of the fathers out there, for the next little bit, I'm your daddy now, but not in like a sexual way. Well, no, not in, unless. Welcome to 5225, 52 Weeks of Loving Movies, week 23, where we're talking about great and terrible movie dads. I grew up without a good dad in my life. My parents got divorced when I was 2, and my dad is a narcissist and only really cared about what value I brought to his life. So, and I'm sure I'll touch a little bit on it as I'm going through these movies, but this is not a sad moment for me. I am also proudly a father who's very much involved in my sons, all 3 of my sons' lives, and I couldn't be happier with my life now. So I'm very happy to be able to be the father I never really had. I did have a really great uncle who was like a surrogate father to me, who was always there for me, what stepped in when no one else would, and who taught me a lot, including my love's part. He's partially responsible for my love of movies, at least some of the movies I love. He's the one who introduced me to Tombstone. He introduced me to the Coen brothers. He introduced me to Dead Poet Society, my favorite movie of all time. And plus a lot of really great music. So I have a lot to thank him for. And if he's watching, happy Father's Day, Uncle Mike. I love you. But we're not here to talk about me and my fatherhood relationship. Well, we're not entirely here to talk about that. That will come up, I'm sure. But let's get into the very first movie that I watched for this, which was a movie that I loved as a kid, and I still love. I got to watch it with my kids this week, and it's a movie that I absolutely adore, which is a Goofy movie from Disney, which featured a great dad in Goofy Goof and a terrible dad in Pete Sr., Pete, as we call him. It's funny, Pete, I grew up calling him the bad Goofy when I was real young. I used to call him the bad Goofy. I'm pretty sure I get that from my biggest, or the thing I had seen him in most when I was a young kid was Mickey's Christmas Carol, which is great. I know it's my friend Stacy who you saw on last week. I know it's her favorite version of Christmas Carol. I'm a big fan of Muppet Christmas Carol, but Mickey's Christmas Carol is right up there for me. But Pete in that, I believe he's the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, is very scary. And so I used to call him the bad Goofy. I always thought he was a dog, and I have recently come to learn that he's supposed to be a cat, which makes some sense, but also like people were like, "Yeah, you didn't know that?" Like, well, he looks like certain breeds of dog. It's not unreasonable if he's supposed to be the opposite of Goofy that he would. I mean, it would make sense he's a cat, but that he would also be a type of dog makes sense as well. That doesn't matter. That's not part of this, but I always loved this movie. The songs are really great. Powerline. We're still waiting on that album to drop, I think. It was just a great, it really captured something about the 90s that felt very, very true, even to children and adults alike. What I love about this movie is that the Black community has really embraced it as a Black film in the last decade or so, which I think is very apt and very good. I think counting Goofy among Black characters makes a whole lot of sense to me. And Max, his son, is a young coming of age movie about a Black son. I think that all feels very apt, and I think it's very good. A Goofy movie is, as I said, a movie that I loved from my childhood. It's just nostalgia start to end for me. Nostalgia all the way down is what I wrote on my Letterboxd review. And it's something that I never really got to experience. I had a really great mom who I got to spend a lot of time with, but this idea of a father and son bonding experience was not really something that was in the cards for me. So this was always a nice kind of movie about something I didn't really know much about or that I hadn't really experienced. It was a look into what some people get to go through. And yes, a lot of the time Max is embarrassed of his dad, or very antagonistic toward his father, which I'm sure is very, very true. I didn't ever really feel that way about my mom. I had stepdads I felt that way about, but it was not in the same way. I didn't have the relationship with them to even really have the close anger at him that Max has for Goofy, or the embarrassment. So this was always a really good look into this life that I didn't know, or that I didn't have. But it's a movie that I really love. I need to, because I should have mentioned this up top, I've got a D&D game with my kids brewing, and that's what we're going to do for Father's Day. So this is going to be very short. I know I promised that a lot, but this is going to be a short one. I only watched 3 movies this time. I wanted to watch a lot more, but just time got in the way. Life got in the way. I just didn't get around to getting to very many movies. Only got around to 3. So I'm going to move on from this one to the next one, which is Wes Anderson's kind of the movie that, in my opinion, kind of set the tone for what Wes Anderson movies would be forever after that, and that is the Royal Tenenbaums. And the terrible dad in this one is Royal Tenenbaum himself. I know Chaz is also a dad in this, but we don't really get a lot from Chaz in terms of being a dad in this movie. He basically solely feels the role of son. He does some dad things, but it's all kind of in service to his role as a son. So I'm just counting Royal as the dad here, because I couldn't tell you if Chaz is a good or a bad dad, just from what we've seen. But Royal Tenenbaums, as I mentioned, it's kind of because we already had Bottle Rocket and Rushmore, and those are both very Wes Anderson movies, but this is kind of where he started the aesthetic that would become who Wes Anderson is today. And I recently saw The Phoenician Scheme in the theater, which I really, really liked. It's very funny. It was a good movie, but it feels like a child of this movie. Royal Tenenbaums is the good dad, the great dad to the Phoenician Scheme. Royal Tenenbaum is a terrible dad throughout most of this movie. And again, I'm going to cycle it back to my experience with dads, because once you get to the end of this movie, if you haven't seen it, skip past this, because I'm going to be basically talking about the end of the movie for the rest of the film. I'm going to talk about here before I get to the end of the movie. My experience with the way that my experience with my own father mirrors this is that Royal only comes back into their lives when it benefits him, when he feels like he needs something from them, which in this case is the relationship, the what it will do for him. He doesn't come back into their lives because it's good for them. In fact, they've made it clear that him coming back is bad for him. for them, but he still is trying to worm his way back in, which is admirable in some ways, that you're trying to rekindle a relationship with your kids, but it's completely for him. It has nothing to do with them. And that's the kind of experience I always had with my own dad, is that my dad got me great Christmas presents. He when I would be able to have the opportunity to visit him, he would make kind of a big deal about it, but that was all for him. If he was doing that for the thanks, I've talked about this in other videos that I've done, either here or over on the Dill Pickle Movie Network. I don't remember, but it very much was my dad's. My experience with my dad was always very much about like what value I brought to him, and especially with my sister, he didn't find much value in her, so he didn't really pay as much attention to her, which sucked real bad. But it kind of sucks being the favorite child of the absentee father who doesn't really care about you. My mom had to pick up the slack there, which I don't blame her for. She definitely had to. But it kind of sucks being the favorite of the one who's not in it for you at all. So anyway, that's really Royal's story here, is he's trying to come back into their lives for himself. Now, this is where I'm going to get to the end of it. If you haven't seen it, skip past this, because I recommend this movie. I think that people should watch this movie, because I think that while it was very well received when it came out, and it was very popular back then, I think it may be underseen now, because I think that there is a stigma that comes with Wes Anderson these days. Not necessarily bad, but just this idea of what the type of movie he makes, almost roll your eyes at a movie now. It's like, oh, it is a Wes Anderson movie now, which again, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. My friend Chris, who you've seen on this channel, if you've watched some of my other stuff, texted me when he saw the trailer for the Phoenician Scheme. It was like, at what point do Wes Anderson's movies become Wes Anderson pastiche? And I say, I think we're there. I think we've been there for a while. But I don't think that's a bad thing. So anyway, watch this movie. If you haven't seen it, skip past this. So I can talk about the ending, because in the end, he becomes a good dad, or at least he becomes a good dad for the right reasons toward the end. But I still have him in the terrible dad spot, because sometimes it's a little bit too little too late. I hope that at his passing, which they make it very clear that at his passing, he was in a good place with his kids, and he had kind of made the amends that he needed to make. And I think at the end of his life, he could probably be considered, for a brief time, a good dad. But that was not his life. That was not the life he had for his kids. He was not a great dad to his kids. My dad came to try to be, and we have a much better relationship now, but my dad came and tried to be a good dad once he had no one else left. He didn't really achieve that necessarily, but he was a little bit more attentive once he had nothing left but the people who basically had to love him, which was me and my sister. So I have a lot of experience in that way, and I think that Royal Tenenbaum, in the end, had his heart in the right place, and gravitated into or found his way into good dad territory. But overall, terrible dad and Royal Tenenbaum. As I mentioned, if you haven't seen it and you're still watching this part, please watch it. It is a really great movie. I think it has a lot to say, and it has a lot of really great moments and really great writing in it for people who really love film. So yeah, go watch Royal Tenenbaums if you haven't seen it. But I'm going to move on. Again, I'm rushing through this because I've got a date with some handsome boys here in a few minutes. But the last movie I watched was the one first time watching. It kind of like this was on my list, but it's like I had watched two movies that I had seen, and like I have to do something that I haven't seen. And so I was hoping when I started this that it was true what I'd heard about it, that it is about dads, and it is, and that is Road to Perdition. which is directed by Sam Mendes. Um, this is, I think, now one of my favorite Sam Mendes movies. I think he makes a lot of really great movies. I think he's a good filmmaker, really good filmmaker. Some of his movies are harder to watch today than they used to be. American Beauty, which I still think is an incredible movie, harder to watch these days because of who's in it and just kind of the time it was made. But yeah, in this one, the I have both Mike Sullivan by portrayed by Tom Hanks, and John Rooney portrayed by Paul Newman as great/terrible dads, because I have not determined if I think they are great or terrible dads yet. I think that they both have terrible dad things, and I think that they both do great dad things. And I think the kind of the point of the movie is that it sees Mike Sullivan as a great dad, and I think that I don't think there's enough in it that I would put him solely in terrible dad territory. So I do think that I put Mike Sullivan as a great dad. Now, if you've never seen Road to Perdition, let me just kind of give you a quick rundown of it. Mike Sullivan's son, Michael Sullivan Jr., who, by the way, is played by Tyler Hoechlin, who would grow up to be Superman on the CW, which was incredible. Like, I didn't think I really knew him before this. I was like, oh wow, apparently this kid's been in stuff. So that was pretty cool to notice him in this movie. Anyway, Michael Sullivan Jr. Witnesses a crime that is committed by his dad and John Rooney's son, who is played by Daniel Craig, who is like fifth build in this movie. It's crazy. Below the credits, below the title credit, which is something that would never happen today. He witnesses a crime that is committed by those two, and he is caught. Daniel Craig's character does not believe that he won't stay quiet about it. So he goes to their house and thinks that he kills the child, but he actually kills his little brother and his mom. So Tom Hanks has to take his son, Mike Sullivan has to take his son, Michael, to protect him, and also tries different ways to get protection for him and his family. And that's basically what the movie is about. I think that the film itself was really, really good. There's some really beautiful shots in this movie. There's some really good father-son moments in this movie. Maybe it could have used a little bit more to get my buy-in in terms of the characters' relationships. But I think for the most part, very good father and son relationship stuff. There's this really, really beautiful moment in the movie. This is not a father and son moment. This is just really great shot, really great scene. And I'm not really going to tell you the specifics of it in case you haven't seen it, because I have a feeling that a lot of people who are watching this probably haven't seen it, but I do recommend it. But there's a moment where Mike Sullivan is taking out some of his revenge, and he is kind of hidden away, and the sound drops out, and it's just this beautiful music over these people being shot. It pans across them as they're falling, and you don't hear anything. And then the only shots you do hear are the ones you aren't sure he's going to take. Oh, it's such a beautiful sequence. It really made the movie for me, really. It's just a really great moment and sequence in this film. John Rooney, in terms of good and great and terrible dad status, he falls, I think, more into terrible dad status because of the life he raised his son in. And the difference, and a thing that I left out of Mike Sullivan's fathering, is that a lot of Mike Sullivan's journey is to keep his son's innocence, is not just to protect him, but to make sure that he doesn't doesn't need to go down this path that he had to go down to provide for his family. He wants to maintain his son's innocence. He does not want him involved, which again also puts him into this great dad territory for me. John Rooney and his son Connor, who's again played by Daniel Craig, Connor was raised in this. Connor is a part of the crime operation that's going on there. Connor is this spoiled crime son who now has to be protected by his father, and the protection by his father is very admirable. I think that is what kind of keeps him in keeps him teetering there, is because there is a, this is my son, I have to protect him, that kind of thing. Even though I don't agree with what he did, this is my son. I think that the fact that he put his son into that position, by the way he raised him and by the person that his son turned out to be, puts him into the terrible dad territory. Because if he had treated his son more like Mike Sullivan treated his, that would never have happened. Connor would never have needed to go after the Sullivans. So I think that Mike Sullivan does fall into great dad territory, and John Rooney does fall into terrible dad territory. In fact, let's update the little banner here. There we go. Jude Law is also in this film. He's also good. His character is very, very interesting. And I was going to, if you remember when I did my non-superhero comic book movies thing, I said I really wanted to watch Road to Perdition, but I didn't end up having time. Hopefully I'll be able to squeeze it into one of these other categories, and I was able to squeeze it into this one. So I'm glad that I finally got to be able to watch this. But I'm going to move on from this, and that's it. Those are the movies that I watched. Let's go into week 24. Which is going to be completely blind spots. There will be no rewatches for me, because blind spots here is going to be movies that I haven't seen, all first-time watches for me. I do fear that I might have a little bit of a busy week ahead of me this week, so hopefully I'll get a few in. But I've always promised at least one, and at least one that I haven't seen. So I will at least be watching one, hopefully more. But all blind spots. Talk to me in the comments. What are some movies that you want to make sure that I've seen if I haven't seen them? If you want to go look at my Letterboxd, I don't have everything that I've ever watched logged, because I only really have logged the things that I've watched since I've been on Letterboxd. But if you want to go to my Letterboxd, it's MattmanXIII. Check that out. Check out my to see if you can find something that maybe I haven't watched. Tell me in the comments what's a movie that I should watch. Talk to me in the comments, what are some of your favorite movie dads, great movie dads and terrible movie dads. Talk to me in the comments. Thanks.